On this episode of Delivering Marketing Joy, we talk with the leadership linebacker, Dr. Jason Carthen, about common mistakes he sees and how he gets things done. Hey there, and welcome to another edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am your host, Kirby Hasseman, and I am super pumped. I've got a repeat guest. The leadership linebacker, which is maybe my favorite title in all of business. Dr. Jason Carthen is joining me today. Dr. Jason, thanks so much for joining me.
Hey, Kirby, I've been looking forward to this thing, man.
Oh, man, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. So in jumping in with some questions, one of the things I know about you is you do speaking and coaching for businesses all over. You know, for those listening, are there some common mistakes that you see people or companies that they need to overcome on a regular basis? And if so, what are some of those?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. Pretty common is that people don't think long term. They're more in the moment. They're trying to figure out exactly like, okay, how can I do the things I need to do today to just keep us solvent and moving forward?
Totally get it.
And when I go in and either do coaching or consulting, one of the big things that I'll share is that you have to be intentional on long-term objectives. And clearly, if you're not intentional, you're going to always be reacting to what's taking place in the environment. So when you see those companies that habitually are successful, regardless of what's taking place in the market or in the environment, typically they put something in place that allows them to have continued value to their customers. And so that would be one thing I would really share with people. Make sure you're planning long term. You put things in place. You have short term goals with very clear objectives, but you also have long term, or what I like to call overarching goals in your organization.
Yeah, I'm a big, huge believer in goals and vision. And so I love hearing that you're coaching people in that way. I think there's so much value, and so many people and businesses that, like you said, they just kind of operate by the seat of their pants. And it's hard to maintain long-term success that way.
It really is. And really it's a discipline, Kirby. I mean, many people, it's hard. Human behavior says, okay, I'm just dealing with what I'm dealing with today. When in reality, those individuals that are true game changers in business, I mean, they really adopt that discipline to think long term.
Yeah. Well, in doing some research more, and again, you and I have talked before, but, you have a radio show, you have a podcast, you're doing speaking all over, you have a new book coming up soon, which we're going to talk about in a second. Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask you a question that people ask me all the time. Where do you find the time, man?
Well, is there such a thing?
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever find the time. I just did a radio interview in the UK for the Ask Avani show. Mm-hmm. And, I shared with them that it's all about being disciplined. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have to be disciplined and you have to create healthy boundaries. And I know that may put a few people off. Right. But the reality is, if you create healthy boundaries, really the time thing will take care of itself. Mm. I think many people, if they sort of wake up every morning and they don't have something regimented, then again, it goes back to just a day having its way with you, and you're reacting to everything. And I've also found this, Kirby, when people actually get up in the morning, they don't do any devotional time or they don't spend time with themselves to figure out where they are. Immediately they go to technology, whether it's checking their email, whether it's checking their social media status, and that stuff will just like take you hostage the rest of the day. You're trying to figure out, okay, how am I sitting down doing 30 emails, 40 emails, and it's just problematic. So healthy boundaries, making sure that you are really operating in your purpose. You'll hear me share that quite a bit. My end game is to live this life fully with passion and intention and make sure when it's all said and done that I've operated in my purpose. I mean, that's the thing that really drives me. So whether I'm doing my live radio show or my podcast or completing books, it's one of those things that I just really make sure is part of my purpose. And then also I have very healthy boundaries because the last thing, I guess, a parting shot here, people are people, and people are very good people, and they want what they want at that point. So if you allow them to take from you all the time, then really, is it on them or is it on you? And that's the thing that I really talk about a lot, even when I go and speak and train.
Yeah, no, it's so funny because again, I've been reading more and more about creating space in your life, and really, it's not about time; it's about priorities. And I
That's it.
think, and if you focus your time on other people's priorities, then that's the way your day is going to be shaped. If you're focusing on your own, it can be, to use your word, more intentional.
Yes.
So speaking of the book, we talked a little bit about that just a second ago. You've got a new book coming out, 52 Ways to Tackle Leadership for Success. So
Yes.
tell me about the book and why 52.
Well, a couple of things. 52 Ways to Tackle Leadership for Your Success is really something that I wanted to be a resource for people. And the whole idea of 52 is 52 weeks, in a year. And essentially, this is a book that you don't want to put back on the shelf. It's chock full of true stories, whether it's dealing with the medical industry or the National Football League or sales training. All these are stories that I've either dealt with or I've had people bring to me and problem solve. And I have calls to action in the book for each week. So if you are dealing with a certain leadership issue or a certain leadership challenge or a human resource issue, this book allows you to leverage the information in there. So you can even provide it to a potential client. You can use it with your staff. If you're in academia, you can use it for a case study book. There's so many different things you can do with it that at the end of the day, I wanted to make sure that it was something that didn't just lose value over a period of time. So that's where the 52 comes from. And then also just the passionate belief that people need a resource. A lot of times, whether I'm doing a mastermind or whether I'm doing coaching, people want to try and figure out, okay, what can I do after we're off this call? Or what can I do after I'm off this webinar? And I try and tell them that, hey, this is a resource for you to use. And it is available now, Kirby. It's one of those things that I've been ramping up to this launch and putting in some great sort of bonuses for people. And if they connect with me at jasoncarthen.com, they'll be able to see some of those things that are going to be coming up. So they definitely want to go and get it. So on Amazon, also at jasoncarthen.com. And it's also going to be available very soon, Barnes & Noble and all the other retailers too.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations on the book.
Great.
I will definitely check it out. You've answered my 3 questions. I give everybody the opportunity to ask me one. Do you have one for me?
I do. And, I always like to put you on the spot, man. When you think about this whole marketing thing, is there really a time that your marketing plan becomes old and outdated? Or is it something that you just need to continue to retool and figure it out as you go?
That's a great question. And I think that, and it's one that I think every small business, including my own, battles, right? We're working right now to say, okay, we've done content pretty well for an extended period of time, but what are we doing to capture those leads? Now, what I would call that is a retool, right? We're saying, look, we've established ourselves to a degree as an expert. Now we need to make sure that when people see us an expert, we're doing a good job of capturing that information. So I don't always think there needs to be a total blow it up and start over. A lot of times, especially if you've been intentional to your word about creating it in the first place. I think sometimes we want to hit the restart button too soon sometimes as entrepreneurs. But I think it's more of an evolution. Now, there's a place certainly if you're like, okay, we need to totally restart and start over. But most of the time, I think it's about taking it each, whether it's weekly, monthly, quarterly, or annually, taking it that one step further so that you continue to provide value to you and to the customer.
Excellent. I like that. And I really like the idea that, hey, it's something that you kind of have to watch and, and deal with as you go. And I think I just put a blog post out recently, too, that talks about the whole idea of crunching data to really give you an idea of your effectiveness. And that really speaks to what you're talking about, too. So I think as long as we're intentional and we're keeping a good idea of what's taking place, you're probably right. You probably don't need to blow that thing up and start all over every time. That's pretty expensive, too.
Yeah, right. Well, hey, man, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. We've done it before. We'll do it again.
All right, man. Hey, I appreciate it. One last parting
Yes.
shot. If people want to connect with me on a deeper level, I'd love for them to, and that's something I just started, text to me at 38470, just the words "I Speak Life," and you'll be connected with me and you'll be signed up for my updates. And I'd love to just continue to add value to people. So make sure you do that.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. That the leadership linebacker, Dr. Jason Carthen. That's going to wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, but wait! Can you do me a favor? Please subscribe to my channel. If you haven't done it already, the way to do it's right over here. And hey, if you want to watch the last episode, check that out over here. Again, before you leave, subscribe!